The COVID-19 pandemic took the world by storm in the spring of 2020. Virginia Tech was turned upside down alongside other public universities across the globe. Regularly scheduled activities and in-person classes would not return to our campus until the end of fall 2021. But this is not to say normalcy was restored. Vaccination events were held on campus in Lane Stadium beginning in January 2021 for students, faculty, and staff, and local residents of Blacksburg. The beginning of a vaccinated population in the Blacksburg area began to alleviate the fear surrounding the contagious coronavirus. Regardless, mask mandates would still be in effect until the spring of 2022, about 2 years after the initial outbreak of COVID-19. The following is a recount from Becca Bradley, a graduating senior here at Virginia Tech. Attending college through a global pandemic was not something I, nor any of my classmates, anticipated when beginning our sophomore year here. When the initial shutdown of campus activities began in the spring of 2020, my classmates and I were still on our scheduled spring break. Many of us just thought we would have an extended break and a more relaxed schedule for the rest of the semester. None of us anticipated how much our lives would change over the next 2 years. Over this time period, I experienced stress and anxiety of the unknown. I experienced fear for the health of my friends and family. I experienced feelings of isolation while being encouraged to minimize all human contact. There were times I felt hopeful for the future, and times when I felt like things would never return to normal. I felt like my college experience was being stripped away from me as the months began to promise no improvement. When vaccines were starting to be administered in the spring semester of 2021, I finally felt like society was becoming less fearful as a whole. I thought I would gain more sense of normalcy by the end of the semester, but day-to-day activities remained the same. It really wasn't until I was physically back in the classroom that I really started to feel like things were going back to normal. Even though the mask mandate was still required on campus, the majority of the community of Blacksburg was mask-free. When football games and full-capacity events and venues were allowed, I felt like I was going to get my normal college experience for the rest of my senior year. Now, in my spring semester of my senior year, the community and campus is mask-free. Outbreaks have been contained, and the fear and anxiety of the COVID-19 pandemic seems to be a thing of the past. I hope we can continue to make a positive advancement and strive for normalcy to restore the Virginia Tech students' college experience that they have missed out on in the past. When I first came to Virginia Tech as a freshman last year, it was completely different than how it is today. The mask mandate was heavily enforced on campus, in buildings and dorms, and also around the town. Many people decided to take all of their classes online instead of in person in hopes of being safe from the virus. This year, everything has changed. I'm Preeya Sharma, a now rising junior here at Virginia Tech. The beginning of this school year had little difference from last year, except for the fact that campus life was blooming. More students opted to take in-person classes instead of online in hopes to go back to normalcy, so campus became lively once again. I had never seen so many people in one area at one time until the first day of class last semester. The atmosphere on campus my freshman year almost felt like a ghost town. I would only see people walking around on the weekends, never the weekdays. I myself was scared to go anywhere without a mask, and I made sure to live extremely cautiously. I carried a mask with me everywhere, even if I knew that they weren't required at certain places, just as a safety precaution, and I still do this today. I would say the biggest factor that I personally experienced that gave students and staff a chance at seeing a more normal future was the fact that Lane Stadium allowed for a 100% capacity for the first time in 2 years. This was a shock to many considering football games were filled with out-of-state visitors and vaccinations and masks were not required for entry. I was nervous about the spread of COVID-19 when I attended my first Virginia Tech football game. But I was also excited seeing as I had missed out on football last year. Seeing as COVID-19 cases last year were extremely prevalent on campus, many of my peers and friends had the same concerns that I did. But feeling the atmosphere of a collective identity for the first time in a year completely wiped away my fears in the moment. Even if it was just for a few hours, I felt like life was normal again. I felt like I was finally at the amazing student-oriented college that I chose to be at. At the beginning of the spring semester, the mask mandate was officially lifted. Many of my friends, as well as myself, were reluctant about the idea. In the first few weeks, I noticed that 50% of my classmates chose to wear masks, while the others didn't. Fast forward to present time, now at the end of the year, almost no one is seen wearing masks on campus. I take the bus to campus in around Blacksburg almost every day, and I do see some people wearing a mask. However, many people don't. I remember when the mandate for public transportation was lifted. I was on my way to the bus stop when I got the notification, and I chose to not wear a mask considering it was the first time that I had forgotten to bring one. A majority of others still wore theirs, but many didn't as soon as it was announced. At this point in time, I think that everyone is just embracing this newfound freedom that was given to them in order to make up for the past years of isolation. COVID-19 cases at Virginia Tech have remained contained and, if anything, have lowered even with the mandate being lifted. I think that as long as we as a community keep up safe practices and continue to think about how our actions affect others, then this is a great start to going back to a normal college experience.
I'm sure many college students would agree that the COVID-19 pandemic not only made it hard to excel academically, but also flourish socially. My name is Jenna Pearson, and I was a freshman here at Virginia Tech last year during the height of the lockdown. Masks were required in all indoor spaces, and my entire class schedule was online. As a naturally introverted person, this environment made it extremely difficult to meet new people and form genuine personal relationships. I did not know anyone in my residence hall except for my fellow roommates, as we did not have any traditional floor activities. My classmates and peers were faceless black screens on a Zoom conference, and even the dining halls had limits on how many people were allowed to sit at a table. While these restrictions help mitigate the impacts of the coronavirus, this isolation negatively impacted students such as myself. Now that Virginia Tech has returned to administering in-person classes, I can feel myself becoming a person once more. I have formed caring relationships with my classmates and friends, and even joined clubs to reflect my own personal interests. On-campus activities have encouraged me to get outside and involved, opposed to last year where I spent my time locked in a dark dorm room. The removal of the mask mandate and climate of this semester has allowed me to form some genuine friendships that I plan on holding on to for a long time. Additionally, the firsthand experience of being in a pandemic lockdown has allowed me to cherish the trivial things that life gives us, whether that's traffic, not being able to find a parking spot, or just being able to cook dinner with friends. While it is still unknown whether life will ever return to normal, or whether it was even normal in the first place, it is evident that the vaccination requirement and mask mandate removal have led to positive effects throughout campus. Thus, the pursuit of normalcy will continue on and on until we get as close as we can to achieving the feeling of what was.